The rand trading down well below 7 yesterday. I think I saw it going down to 6.96. Of course, back above 7 rand this morning, but really helped by that Walmart's potential bid for Massmart.
Good morning, Stephen. Yes, you're right. I mean, the rand firmed considerably following that news, but we saw that it failed to sustain those gains yesterday, and in late afternoon slipped back above the 7 rand level, and it remains there at the moment. And we think that this is potentially, I think the market was quite excited initially on the news of Walmart's bid, but then when you consider that Massmart's local shareholding is actually quite a small percentage, it seems like it's about 20%. So the potential foreign inflows from the deal are going to be limited to far less than the full size of the deal. We think it could be about 6 billion rand at this point, and that compares to the bid that they put in, which values the company at about 32 billion.
Of course, we did see the euro coming under slight pressure late yesterday as well, and that's due to renewed eurozone debt worries, this time coming out of Portugal and Ireland. Are we still seeing the rand-euro correlation in place, or is this something that has been broken?
Stephen, it's hard to make a definitive statement at this point. That link does seem to be tenuous, so it's not a very reliable indicator every day of where the rand is going to be trading, but certainly a bit of euro weakness could have played into the rand slipping back in the late afternoon.
And of course, we have Brazil's Finance Minister Guido Mantega saying an international currency war has broken out. So while we've been talking about the strength of the rand, and it does seem to go from strength to strength, it looks like other countries are very much in the same boat. Brazil, Thailand, a number of countries concerned about the strength of their currencies.
Yes, absolutely, Stephen. It was quite interesting that our former finance minister was making the point that it seems that the more you shout about the rand, the stronger it gets. So it's interesting to observe that we're not alone as far as this phenomenon is concerned. We saw the Bank of Japan intervene in currency markets for pretty much the same reason a few weeks ago. And now it seems that it's happened to Brazil, despite the fact that they had actually implemented a Tobin tax. So it does seem to, as far as South Africa goes, caution against trying to implement that as a rand cap, because it doesn't really seem to be working in those countries where it has been implemented. But certainly we're not alone in this situation.
Of course, as you said when we were speaking earlier, it's really a brave bank that tries to take on currency markets, because despite that Bank of Japan intervention, we did see the yen initially weakening, but really strengthening again afterwards, so really to little effect.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. I mean, if you look at the size of global currency markets, as you put it, it really is a brave bank that tries to take that on. And I think that there have been enough casualties in history to caution against attempting a move like that.
Well, just looking to some data out yesterday, the Reserve Bank's leading indicator came out better than expected, rising by 20.1% year-on-year in July, and that's from 18.5 in June. What does this tell us about the economy, Nomvuyo?
Well, Stephen, if you look at the monthly increase in the lead indicator, it actually been trending downwards. So there'd been 2 consecutive months of declines in May and June, and July then marked the first month of a month-on-month increase in the lead indicator. So I think what it alludes to is that although the economy is losing momentum as expected in the second half, it's probably not as big of a slowdown as may have initially been feared. And at the moment it seems that estimates for economic growth this year are clustered around the 3% mark. We're expecting slightly less than that at 2.7. So it does seem that the economy is headed in that direction. So a moderation as opposed to a wholesale sort of slowdown or crash.
Of course, looking forward, we have CPI out tomorrow. We chatted a little bit about this yesterday. You are again expecting a slight moderation from July's figure for August, aren't you?
Yes, Stephen, we're expecting CPI to come in at 3.6. That's a slight decline from the 3.7% for the previous month, and that's largely we would attribute to rand strength as well as a petrol price decline in the month.
And of course, globally, we're looking at some data out of the UK today, as well as the US Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index. What are your expectations on those fronts?
Well, Stephen, there does seem to be, as far as the international indicators are concerned, we're not expecting a change to the UK's initial GDP estimates. We're expecting it to remain in line with earlier estimates at 1.2% growth for the second quarter. As far as the US is concerned, the manufacturing survey, Richmond Fed manufacturing survey, is expected to have stabilized for September. So on the whole, we'd be hoping for some positive numbers, because that could certainly help to further improve investor appetite for risk. But the downside risk to the rand are that this data disappoints and that there's a downward revision in UK GDP numbers, or a worse than expected reading on the US manufacturing index.